Hey, welcome back to Condensing the Cloud podcast. My name is Lior. I'm a VP at Battery Ventures investment team based out of our Tel Aviv office. Today, I'm joined by Guy Tytunovich, CEO of our portfolio company, CHEQ, which helps businesses combat fake web traffic, bot attacks, and other forms of invalid activity. Guy and I discuss what exactly bots are, how they can affect company operations, budgets, and marketing analytics, and how AI is factors into all that and much more. Hope you'll enjoy it. So, hey, Guy, thank you so much for joining me. Really excited for this conversation.
Likewise. Thank you, brother.
So, appreciate the time you've been spending today with me. I wanted to ask you some questions about CHEQ and the problem you've been solving for customers. And if we can start a little bit to talk about bots in general, and then we can get into how CHEQ helps companies deal with them. So can you explain to us what exactly a bot is and why did it have such a bad reputation?
So a bot is essentially an automation tool, but now I need to explain what an automation tool is. A bot is a piece of software that tries to mimic the human behavior and does actions that a human would typically do online. That being said, not all bots are bad. Not all bots are fully trying to mimic the human behavior. And bots have many, many different purposes and types and identities. I'll give you a quick example. Um, some bots click on ads. They try to make the publishers or the Googles of the world think that they're real human beings that are genuinely interested in whatever ad they're viewing and clicking on it. In some cases, for malicious, or in most cases, for malicious purposes, to waste their competitor's ad budget or to piss off someone, and so on and so forth. In some cases, bots are completely benign. They might cause damage, but they don't intend to. In some cases, they just want to scrape data. In some cases today with Gen AI and everything that goes on, bots are supposed to do activities that you just don't have the time to do or don't want to do, like order a pair of shoes. We call that machine customer, and so on. They got a bad rap because I think a lot of global leaders, whether in finance or in politics, have been using them for their own gain to make it seem like they have a following that's bigger than what it actually is, or in some cases, for instance, deceive the virality algorithms of certain social networks to make it seem like a certain post is specifically more interesting than it actually is and get more coverage for it. So it's kind of been brought to mainstream attention by that, mostly by US politics and people like Elon Musk and others.
That's interesting. I read somewhere that almost half the internet traffic is controlled by bots. Can you expand on that, or what's your current estimate to how much traffic is really human beings versus bots?
So online, there are a ton of different types of users and a ton of different types of bots. I'd say that um, it's very likely that about half of the internet traffic before the age of Gen AI was indeed bots. Now it's a bit more. For instance, not 50% of the users that are clicking ads are bots. I'd say about 10% of those are bots, and it varies in different geos or in different industries. Not 50% of all social media users are bots. In some cases, it's higher than that. In some cases, it's lower than that. We typically see an uptick in bot activity right before some sort of a big news item, whether it's war driven or whether it's anything geopolitical, elections, for instance. But yeah, it's fair to assume that up until Gen AI came in and brought in the machine customers, like the good bots that are doing something on your behalf, on their proprietor's behalf, that's not maliciously intended, it's about 50% of the users. I'd say that now, after Gen AI and with machine customers, it's going to be way, way, way more than 50% of the internet traffic.
Interesting. So I want to dive into Gen AI in a little bit, but I'm curious how you got into this space? What got you curious about bots when you established CHEQ?
So first of all, I'm a nerd by training and vocation. I I'm what's called a script kiddie. I always like to build stuff. And when software came to the world, and it was a lot easier to do crazy things than to dismantle actual machines like fax machines. And I grew up in the 80s and the 90s. So when I started being interested in reverse engineering and stuff like that, it was pretty expensive. As in, my dad brought home a fax machine, and I wanted to figure out whether, I mean, how the heck does it work? Are there small people inside the fax machine? Or, I mean, so I had to dismantle it and hopefully successfully put it back together. Then when software came, it became a lot cheaper to do it without breaking things. And um, and then the first kind of social networks came in, and one of them was called MIRC. And it was basically, I don't know if you remember it, but it was kind of a platform for chat rooms, and you could chat with people privately, and you could chat with people in a full-on chat room and do it live. And that was, I was probably 10 years old, or maybe 13 years old when it came out, and it was shocking to, like, this was the first kind of, this is when the internet hit me. This is mid 90s. And when I took on programming, one of the first things that I had built was um, a bot driven social network. Like, I created a version of MIRC where you interact with bots. To this day, I'm not sure why it was so interesting to me, but like, the concept of talking to a machine and thinking like someone would think it's a human being, but it's actually not. And back then, it wasn't Gen AI, obviously. It wasn't even artificial intelligence or anything of that sort. It was just rules based. So, you ask it, you say, "Hi, my name is Guy. How are you?" And the bot tells you, "Hey, my name is Joe. I'm great. How are you?" And then you say, "Where are you from?" And the bot says, "I'm from Pennsylvania. Where are you from?" And so on and so forth. And I created a ton of users like this. This wasn't even connected to the internet, right? This was sitting on my computer. This was just a gag. And those were the first kind of bots. And again, back then, you didn't really have bots. It's not that on MRC or ICQ, there were a lot of fake users that would be bots that are chatting to you. Um, but that kind of fascination drove me to a lot of things that I later on did with artificial intelligence and the defense intelligence. In Israel, as you know, Lior, when we're 18 years old, we go to the military. And in a lot of the cases, if you're a super nerd, then you go to the defense intelligence. I ended up staying for significantly more years than I originally enlisted to, and built a bunch of cool stuff there. Some of them had to do with technology and artificial intelligence. And then when I left the military, the defense intelligence, and I wanted to build a career, it was like the first thing back then. Bots were, this was 13 years ago, bots weren't mainstream. And I thought to myself that I'll start a business that doesn't have a product, that didn't have a product. So I started a digital ad network. I did that for about 6 years. And I, to my fascination, I discovered that a ton of the traffic out there that people that my clients were paying for wasn't human. It was bots, the good old bots that I was friendly with, jokingly. And I realized that I have an opportunity to build a cybersecurity company that would protect against those things, against specifically bots that are hurting marketers, that are hurting an online go-to-market funnel, and so on and so forth. So I decided about 7 years ago to start CHEQ, with the aim of initially protecting marketers from bots. Then it got bigger and bigger and bigger, and we decided to protect marketers against everything that's bad in the online world, including bots. But yeah, that's the story.
That's super interesting. Guy, I wanted to ask you actually double click on the last part you said about the bed bots and if you can tell me a little bit on who's behind this and what's their motivation, like why you getting all those bed bots to your website from the first place?
It really depends on the type of bot and the goal of it. There are a ton of criminal enterprises that are out there to make money from bots clicking on ads, for instance. And I'll give you a couple of examples. Let's say that you're competing with someone and you want to deplete their ad budget, like Google ad budget, for instance. And you want to make sure that you're not competing with them on the same, at the same time, driving the cost of the traffic up because it's a bidding system. So you would deplete their budget by like the hourly budget, by 5 minutes to 8. And then in the last 5 minutes of the hour, you're bidding and bidding and bidding, and no one's bidding against you because you've depleted your competitor's budget. And then you get the traffic for cheap. Another example is, let's say you want to uh, build a news website. Traffic is difficult to get, especially if you built a site yesterday. And let's say, and making money from being a publisher is mostly thanks to advertising. So you put on a bunch of banners on the website and you want to show, and you're not going to get paid if you don't have any traffic. And you typically get paid by either views or clicks. And let's say you want to make it seem like you've got a lot of traffic. So you can buy for very cheap a bunch of bots or services of people that send bots to your website. And suddenly you have a ton of traffic. There's a ton of other examples. Another example is, let's say that you are um, looking to manipulate public opinion for whatever reason. You could, and you want a certain post with a certain opinion or a notion to get a ton of visibility out there, a ton of traffic. You could build and send bots to that post to like it and repost it and so on and so forth. And the virality algorithms of the social network would think that this post is relevant and interesting because a lot of people liked it. I'm oversimplifying it and dumbing it down a bit, but essentially that's the case. And then suddenly a post that no one should have seen is suddenly seen by a ton of real human beings because the virality algorithm of the social network was fooled. So a ton of different players. Some of them do it for financial gain. Some of them do it because they're rogue governments trying to manipulate the U.S. public opinion. Some of that are politicians that want to win elections and do the same thing. But a ton of different proprietors.
Got it. Super interesting. Outside of the public sector, let's put that aside for a second. It sounds like a lot of digital businesses and maybe e-commerce are more susceptible to these bot attacks. Or what do you think are the industries or sectors that are experiencing bot attacks the most?
One of the fun things in being the CEO of a company like CHEQ is that every single customer is a potential customer. But not just industry, but also in terms of size. It's basically the amount of traffic. We have at CHEQ, we have about 15,000 customers worldwide, out of which about 1,000 are large enterprises, and the rest are SMBs. It could be a very small business, it could be a mid-market company, but we have customers that are plumbers that are spending $2,000 a month on digital advertising and they're getting hit by other plumbers. We have some of the biggest brands in the world. We have financial industry. We have airliners, car manufacturers, media, basically from everywhere. It does vary based on industry slightly, but more than that, it varies based on like everybody gets hit, and in some periods of time they get hit worse. For instance, before the midterm election a couple of years ago in the United States, we saw an uptick in fraud traffic and fake traffic across almost all the social networks by 3x. If you're advertising a shampoo during that period on the social networks, you're going to get hit 3x more than you did a month before. So it really, the variance based on industries is not as big as it is due to seasonality or political events, geopolitical events, and so on.
So on your last example, I'm curious, is if I'm that business who's advertising the shampoo, is that going to make me pay more for my ads or just waste my budget, or how is that impacting me?
All of the above. So one thing is it's going to make you pay more because it makes it seem like there's more interest for it and that there's more competition for that traffic. So you're going to pay more per click or per impression. The second thing is it depletes budget. It wastes your budget. And that's painful. We have customers that are spending $1 billion a year on digital advertising. If 1% of it is hit, then it's never 1%. But if 1% of it is hit, it's massively impactful.
So I'm shifting gears a little bit. I know you really wanted to chat about Gen AI. How could we not? I'm curious, in your opinion, is how's the advancement that we're seeing in the technical capabilities? Obviously, AI, Gen AI, how is it impacting the bots and the type of bots that you're seeing? I could imagine they become more sophisticated or run at a larger scale, but curious to hear your inside perspective.
Of course. So first of all, Gen AI is a big old hockey stick type of technology. I mean, every cliche has been said about it. It's bigger of an industrial revolution than anything we've seen before, maybe even bigger than smartphones, sorry, and more. And we feel it across the board with everything and also with bots. And I'll mention two things. One is platforms like OpenAI, like ChatGPT, sorry, or Anthropic's Claude, or many others have democratized a lot of things that were more complex and more expensive before, like creating bots. You don't really need to work hard or be a developer, a web developer, or anything of that sort in order to build a bot nowadays or to build a bot network. All you need to do is, you know, type in a bunch of prompts on ChatGPT and try and mimic that. That is massively impactful, but those are what we call stupid bots because it's very difficult to build a bot like that, companies like us wouldn't be able to identify as a bot versus a human being. That said, I think the even more impactful thing that we see with Gen AI impacting bot activity is that concept called machine customer. Let's say that you have a smart refrigerator and you want that every single time that you're running out of milk, the refrigerator would automatically go to the website of the supermarket and buy a new carton of milk. Or let's say, and there are industrial examples in it, or let's even say that you collect sneakers and there's a specific model that you want, a Nike LeBron 11, size this, color that, and whenever it is for sale for less than $200, and it's on a reputable website, you want to automatically be able to buy it. That's the machine customer. That's something Gen AI can do for you and will be able to do more and more for you tomorrow morning. And every day that goes by, we're getting closer and closer to it. Today, I think I saw a banner for something that is Gen AI related and said, why hire human beings? If you log in, like Salesforce's big thing is the new agent force, basically trying to do that. There are a ton of startups that raised a ton of money trying to make the salesperson redundant by replacing it with an agent, an AI, a bot. Forget for a second about with the impacts on humanity, on the future of work, on a lot of good and bad that can happen from it. In terms of the bots or in terms of what CHEQ does and so on, it's a completely different world for e-commerce, for any business selling online, really. Because now suddenly you have those customers that you need to cater to that aren't human beings. You, for instance, don't need to optimize the user experience for them like you would for a human being. The color of the button doesn't matter. The messaging of the banner doesn't matter. The and so on and so forth. Instead, other things do matter. And you do need to customize your customer journey, the customer experience, so that it fits that of the machine customer, so that the machine customer would be able to more easily detect you as a vendor or as a retailer and want to make an acquisition on your platform. So I think that's incredibly impactful. The fact that bots are going to be there's going to be more and more smart, positive, good bots that are going to make real acquisitions. And the retailers out there, or really any business selling anything online, will have to be able to customize the experience for those good bots. B, they'll have to be able to really accurately understand the intent of a user so that they don't block a good bot, but they do block a bad bot. And C, they need to understand that it's a completely new world out there. It's not what they've been doing for the last 30 years since the internet became a thing.
I know you guys have some serious talent there in terms of AI. I'm curious, as to our last point, how are you guys staying ahead of the curve in terms of the rapid changes that's happening in AI, as you started to mention, internally and in terms of the team?
Sure. So, we started about 7 years ago, and we called ourselves CHEQ, CHEQ, as you know, because you're our seed investor and a Series A investor in every series you guys have participated in. But we wanted to be check.com. But check.com was taken and it was quite expensive. So we thought, well, how much does the .ai domain cost? And it was cheap enough for us to buy. It was about $200. And we told ourselves, well, bots, and what we do is we literally check the AI so it fits, it makes sense. We've been telling ourselves that ever since, and I'm obviously joking a bit, but it's never been truer. So we've been in AI for our entire 7 years. That's what we've been doing, in a completely different angle, maybe than the likes of OpenAI or Anthropic. But we are the force that has to understand, to check whether the AI is malicious or benign, whether its intention is to do this or that, whether it's AI or a human being. Staying ahead of the curve is just continuing to do whatever we've been doing for the last 7 years and grow, grow, grow. Whether it's AI talent, whether it's understanding that you need to understand intent and not just understanding the machine features of a user, and more and more.
I wanted to shift gears a little bit and talk about maybe some practical advice to our audience who are business owners or company owners. And if I was running a company with big online presence, would love to get your take on what I should know and why should I care about all these topics of good bots, bad bots. And you started to touch on it during this conversation, but sounds like you have good insights into both sides of the spectrum.
Absolutely. So it's not just about bots. If you have a business, an online business, and you're selling something online, whether it's services, software, physical goods, whatever, and you're advertising it, and then you're wasting quite a lot of money, whatever you're spending, you're wasting quite a lot of money on bad traffic. That traffic could be hurting you in many different ways. That traffic could be human but malicious, and that traffic could be bots but malicious. But you need the visibility. You need to turn on the light. You need to be able to have this, X-ray scanner to see what the traffic is comprised of. And this could be, again, trying to block bots from clicking on your ads, or trying to block fake users, even human beings, from signing up to your service and stealing ideas off of you because it's your competitor. And you need to, let's say you're a bigger business and you've got a sales team, and you don't want to flood it with fake leads that are not going to show up to the call. So you need to be able to protect the sign-up forms from, again, whether it's human but malicious or bots. And you need to protect from account takeover. And there's always also the resources of it all. Let's say that your traffic is 50% bad, 50% maliciously intended, bot or not, doesn't matter. Whatever you're paying for internet serving is going to double in price. You're just paying money for fake traffic. That's not good. Whatever you're paying, let's say you have a chat support widget on the page, you're typically paying for the amount of traffic that interacts with that chat support widget. If 10, 15, 20, 50% of those chat interactions are with bots or with otherwise malicious users, you're just throwing a ton of money out.
Makes sense. What about the good bots? How should I prepare for the revolution of shifting out of search engines to, I don't know, search agents?
That's a really good question. What I can tell you, what I do know is that you need your customer journey, your customer experience to be optimized both for human beings and for machine customers, but not at the same time. You need to be able to know that when a user comes in, it's a human being 100%, or that it's a machine customer 100%, or that it's, a non-human being user. And if it's a non-human being user, you need to understand the intent and whether that user is a valid machine customer user that's good for you, that you want to sell to, that you want to allow entry, or is it malicious and you want to kick it out the website? And the customer journey and customer experience that you build for real human beings is very different than that you build for machine customers. And you need to be mindful of that. So basically, to summarize it, you need to be able to understand whether the user is a human being or not. B, understand that if it's a human being, or if it's not a human being, understand if it's maliciously intended or not. And C, build a customer journey that is optimized for the good bots, for the machine customers.
Got it. And in what parts is CHEQ helpful to me? Can you elaborate a little bit on how you're helping the set of customers you've been working with uh, within this context?
Of course. So all across the board, everything that I just said. For instance, and again, I'll give the more rudimentary examples. If a bot clicks on your ad and wastes your budgets, it's not good. We're the largest click fraud prevention company on the planet. If 10,000 bots fill up your sign up forms, it's not good. We protect those. If you're a retailer, an e-commerce website, and you have a limited amount of inventory, and your competitor wants you to think that you're out of inventory, he can send a bunch of bots to your website, click add to cart on a specific item, and for 15 minutes, you don't have that inventory anymore, so he can sell that, they can sell that inventory. We protect against that. Um, and a ton of other things. We protect from, again, what I said earlier, I called it human but malicious. Let's say your competitor wants to sign up to your SaaS platform, your software platform, get some ideas to steal from you, and gain access to things that they shouldn't have. We protect against that, even though it's not bots, it's human beings. Account takeover. It could be that a user is trying to log into your bank account, to your customer's, bank account, using the login details of another user. We can help against that. But basically, every piece of your customer journey of your online go-to-market has a ton of vulnerabilities, not just related to bots, but others as well. We try to protect every single touch point with a customer that you have in your online customer journey.
Awesome. Thank you for the explanation. I'm curious as you look through like the next year, 2025, do you have any view on how it should look in terms of the bot activity and how it should impact someone's go-to-market strategy as a business? Do you see this problem growing? Do you see this problem shrinking? Are there more tools out there to help me stop this?
Sure. So since our inception 7 years ago, all we've been seeing is growth. It's always been gradual. And then about a year ago, as in a year and a half after the explosion of Gen AI, it started hockey sticking. It's very likely that it's going to grow and become more intricate. Another thing to point out is that, again, because of geopolitical effects on bot activity, it's also in a year like 2024, 2025, it's also probably going to grow. In addition to that, again, the machine customers thing, now it's not just about more bots, it's about their intention. It's intricate bots. It's bots that suddenly some of the bots are going to be very good for you and you want to accept them. You'll need to tweak some stuff in your customer acquisition strategy and in your customer experience of your website. So I think it's becoming both more intention and identity oriented, as well as just the numbers are going to get bigger and bigger as we go. And specifically, the end of 24 and the beginning of 25 and onwards to 25, it's going to be more complex.
Yeah, and you mentioned this concept of a bot buyer, and it sounds like a good example to me of a new attack surface or a vulnerability. Uh, are there more coming up, or have you seen new attack surface uh, pain points coming up due to Gen AI or AI in general that weren't here before 2 years ago?
Yeah, a ton of them. First of all, also vis-a-vis the customer. So let's take the example of the machine customer that buys you sneakers. That in itself is an attack surface, a B2C kind of attack surface, because I can build a website that would take your bots, your machine customers' well-intended money and sell you sneakers, even though I'm not selling you anything. That in itself could hurt the user, but it's a massive thing that didn't exist before. There's a huge opportunity out there for fake retailers to fool kind of the machine customer into thinking that they're reputable ones and they're going to buy with you, but you're not going to give the goods to the customer. Another one is bots have always been also used as kind of probes or agents to look into the vulnerabilities of certain websites. And now with the democratization of bots, when everyone can build bots and the scale goes up, you have many more agents that you can send to check for vulnerabilities. So one of the things that I think you're going to see more and more is what's called cross-site scripting. So you send a lot of agents to look for a vulnerability, and you're going to find that vulnerability in much more instances than you have now. And attackers can do the cross-site scripting and siphon data of my customers, of users that have signed up to your newsletter or that have spent money with you buying a product or that have, so on and so forth.
Got it. Interesting. Before we wrap up this conversation, I wanted to ask you two last questions. One is being what's the funniest thing you've been seeing a bot doing, if there is such, and the other one, just to close it off, what would be like one piece of advice you would give our listeners?
So I'll give you two examples of funny bot activities. One is, um, and this happens more and more since chatbots have become incredibly humane. But we saw one of our customers chat support agents, not a human agent, but a Gen AI chat support agent being sexually harassed by a customer that's a bot. Like, and you see the conversation and you see it escalate and you see how both are basically like, it was crazy. And I think the second thing was, and it's a bit different, but we had a customer that brought a lot of traffic with affiliates. And one of their affiliates was sending them bot traffic, not as the affiliate, but instead as a competitor. Because both of them were competing to get traffic for the same keywords. And that example that I gave in the beginning of the podcast, where your competitor is trying to deplete your budget and then bid in the last 4 minutes of the hour and get all the traffic for pennies, that was exactly what that affiliate was doing. And we were able to expose that rogue affiliate. And we told our customer, and the customer got back to us and said, yeah, we prefer to continue working with the affiliate. We know he's defrauding us, but he's still bringing us more money than he's costing us. So since the internet became mainstream, reality became more and more complex and confusing. Social networks came in even more so. And every day that goes by, what's real and what's not, the line between them gets blurred. And now with Gen AI and everything that's going on with bots, it's even going to be more difficult. You used to be able to, if let's say you're buying a product on Amazon and you want to watch the reviews and make a decision based on that, it used to be the case that you could spot the reviews, the bot reviews, because they would use Google Translate. And now it's a lot more difficult to understand if a review, for instance, was written by a human being or not, for the simple reason that now chatbots are incredible. So my point is, if you think you can't believe anything you see on social networks or on the internet in general, then boy, you've got another thing coming. It's going to become way more complex. You need to question reality a lot more, or reality as it is conveyed via the internet a lot more today and tomorrow than you did before Gen AI.